Hey mates, it's me Rizz doing a reaction on the channel, and this is World War II by OverSimplified Part 1. And before we get started, I have other videos on this channel. I know that a lot of views I'm getting is from these reaction videos, and it's kind of, well, it's made the channel grow quite a bit. And I'm always glad that people comment on these videos and giving me more context on the things happening during the times or what I'm reacting to. Jeez, tongue twist. And it's, you know, I, if you don't mind, just look at my other videos. If because look, you came here for the reactions, but why not just stay a while for the Australian history? But with that said, let's get to the reaction video. Okay, this video is going to be a little different. I'm going to be messing up the visuals a bit and the audio. Not to the not to the extreme, though, depending on how you see it. But this just forces you to check the original video first, or you've already watched the video first, and then come back here. And link is in the description for that. And you know me. I pause the video. I ask questions on something that I'm not sure of, or just my perspective. And I'm just gonna play it all the way. It doesn't matter if there's any ads. I'll just forward, fast forward them. Ugh. I'm not gonna be forward. Sorry, I've just been doing some email to someone and I saw the forward button. And, anyway, let's go. Let's go.
This video was made possible by Butterfly enthusiast, and he had an unpublished manuscript about aliens.
Next.
And logged onto technology to find courses in photography or just how to make a really good quesadilla. Quality class blown away by or $1 a month. 1,000 people to use this link, which can be found in the description, will get their first 2 months of Skillshare for just 99 cents. Be sure to try it out using the link in the description and learn something new today. Now, without further ado.
Well, just to say what I learnt this week, during the stuff that's going on outside, we all know that what's happening. Australia is kind of like in lockdown, or the borders are closed, and like for all intents and purpose, it's pretty much Australia's kind of in lockdown, for lack of a better term. I mean, at the very least, I know that the borders are closed. Only residents, any permanent residences or citizens get in, and we've, at least me and the family, have kept in a little we've kind of stayed indoors, and I just stay at the folks' house for a bit. They've been they're making me do the blinds. They're putting up some wooden blinds, which I which I helped did, and they look pretty nice. I will say they were given to them by a friend, and they look really nice. And yeah, then I started learning what a pelmet is. It's like the little top bit that covers the top bit of the blinds. And yeah, it's kind of it's like a two-man job kind of thing. Like you gotta have to have one person holding on the other end, and also have a step ladder, some scrapers, a drill, several, or like professional bunch of drill bits that you need to drill, then have screws. You know that that my mom kept stating this, is that with this pelmet, that the pelmet was very cheap. Like the wood was like just fucking drilled or stuck together, and no one sees it, and what no one has to look above and sees, oh, that's a really cheap piece of wood. But anyway, let's get to it. Let's continue. Alright, let's get...
It's 1902.
Alright.
A young man by the name of Benito Mussolini moves from Italy to Switzerland to avoid military service. He gets big into socialism, working for trade unions, writing for socialist newspapers, advocating a violent overthrow of European monarchies, the whole shebang. This gets him in a bit of trouble with the Swiss police, so he gets arrested, sent back to Italy, set free.
Wait, back up.
This gets him in a bit of trouble with the Swiss police, so he gets arrested, sent back to Italy, set free, returns to Switzerland, is arrested again, goes back to Italy again, completes his military service after previously avoiding it, and then...
So wait, was this military services that, so Italy at the time was every man had to serve in the military? And also, wait, this is 1902, so were there any wars going on in Italy? Like, there were a bunch of wars happening before, but now let's continue.
Then after a brief stint as an elementary school teacher, he finally returns to work as an avid socialist. His speeches and journalistic abilities made him famous among Italian socialists. He was anti-war, so when Italy colonized Libya in 1910, he rioted and got arrested. Then World War I came along, and once again he protested Italy's involvement. But then he thought, wait a minute, this war could bring about the social climate needed to overthrow European monarchies and bring about the socialist revolution everywhere. And suddenly he was pro-war, but his fellow socialists didn't like his new pro-war stance, so they kicked him out of the party. So then he said, you know what? I'm done with socialism. We need something new, not based on class divisions tearing us apart, but based on unity through nationality. We'll conquer the Mediterranean and reunite all Italian peoples just like the days of the Roman Empire. I'll call it fascismo, and it will guide the Italian nation to greatness. That's all well and good, Mr. Mussolini, but what kind of haircut am I giving you? Let's go with... bold.
Oh my god! The music! Okay. Sorry. Spotted.
Italy had been on the winner's side in World War I, and they hoped they were going to get a lot out of it, but in the end, they only got a little, and they felt cheated. On top of that, a bad economy and weak governments meant that the Italian people were a little unhappy.
Was this the 30s?
So when Mussolini came along and said that he could fix everything, his fascist movement gained a lot of support. In 1922, he went to the king and said, make me prime minister, or I'll make me prime minister. And the king said, you and what army? This army. Fair enough. Then he went about establishing a dictatorship with himself at its center. Europe had...
Actually, here's a question I gotta ask. Something that I don't know about. You know, I'm very familiar with World War II, but you know, there's so much stuff that I don't know, and no one can claim that they know everything about World War II. Let that be known that no one can claim everything about World War II. You can certainly know about specific parts of it, but it's kind of hard to know everything at the top of your head for it. But here comes the question. Whatever happened to the royal family or the people, the original rulers before Mussolini in Italy? I mean, I sure know that the Vatican was still around there, and there's a good documentary about that called Hitler's Pope. So beware of the comment section. But whatever happened to the royal family or a certain high nobility that was governing Italy? Were they executed, or were they exiled, or just a figurehead? Seriously, I am curious about it. So let's continue.
Had its first fascist dictator. Next up, Germany. Germany had been on the loser's side, and they got absolutely wrecked by the Treaty of Versailles. They lost territory, had to demilitarize the Rhineland, had to reduce their army to just 100,000 men, couldn't have an air force, had to pay the Allies a huge amount of money that it didn't have, and a new rule was established that every Englishman withheld the right to walk into the center of Berlin, pick out any German they wanted, and spank the hell out of them. I made that last one up, but it helps you understand how all of this felt to Germans.
Hey, wanna play some video games? I know I do. I haven't seen the sun in years.
Okay. Okay, if anyone was wondering, that ad back there, yeah, any ads that pop up here, they're gonna be just cut off, cause sometimes you get, it just, you know, takes out of my react. You know, it just... Sorry, I just tried to process of that last ad. What the fuck was that? You know when you get those strange ads, or ads that you've never seen at all, but once you do reaction, when you start recording, they just suddenly there's an ad there that you've never seen in a million years? No? Just me? Do you want me to continue so you don't see this image? Yeah, so do I.
On top of that, a bad economy and weak governments meant that when a small angry man with a silly mustache came along and said that he could fix everything, the German people loved him. Hitler had been a soldier during World War.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Didn't Hitler have like a giant mustache back then? No, he actually did have like a much bigger mustache. Actually a lot of what's that? I don't know if this is a sad thing, but there's like 100 years ago there was so many people with so many men with just like crazy mustaches that it begs the question, how do they just how do they tend to the beards and mustaches they had like at that time? It just seems a bit what was, you know what, I'm never gonna find out, but let's continue.
And he was crazy patriotic, and nobody was madder than him about Germany's humiliation. He helped start a new political party, and in 1923 attended a march on Munich with his boys.
Oh, come on! Oh, come on, you had to censor that? Seriously, you had to... Why? Just... Oh, right, YouTube doesn't want to have a swastika in their videos, or they doesn't want to get what? Oh, so many fucking hurdles about it. But why? I don't get why the censoring thing is needed. Like sometimes I get it, but why? Fear of what? Get it. Let's just...
And then he got arrested. But his popularity grew and grew, and in 1933, the president made him chancellor. He believed he was Germany's great destined savior, and he went full megalomaniac.
Wait.
Establishing a dictatorship with himself at its center. Europe...
Oh! Come on. Look! I mean, grant that is the Iron Cross, and that is the censored version of the armband. It's like the censored version of the armband, but come on. No swastika? Is this too... No, I'm just a little angry when you had to censor something and not show what actually happened. It kinda has a say on something, but then again, this is YouTube and anyway, continue.
Fascist dictator number 2. Hitler and Mussolini had a lot of the same ideas.
Let's see. Radical nationalism, totalitarianism, violence and militarism, anti-democratic, anti-socialist, extremely racist. Quite racist. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think this is due to a lot of... Yeah, forget it.
But more importantly,
I'm not
they
getting
had the
into
same
that.
enemies, and they started to get along. Anyone else want to be friends? Franco? No? You good? I do. Who's that? It's Japan, and they've taken over northern China. Let's rewind a bit. Japan had isolated itself from the rest of the world for over 200 years until the Americans showed up and said, you're going to trade with us and you're going to like it. Then the Western powers imposed a bunch of unequal treaties.
Wait, what?
Meaning Japan's economy was bust. They also had no natural resources.
I think I'd like some more detail on this, because wasn't it during this time when the Americans came, or particularly when all Europe came, Japan, which this is something that I'm a bit really surprised at and hard to fathom, that they were able to within like less than 100 years they were able to advance themselves to be as modern as everyone else, at least technologically. And I think this was a necessity because of how basically that they were very self-isolation, stagnant in technology and such. But when you see America, I think when you see a giant fleet of ships, it like what was it? One person kind of described it as like I wonder what it looks like when if like what was it 14th 15th century um a century a f- like a middle age empire meets a 18th century or 19th century 18th century or 19th century navy kind of. Jeez, not bad at I still have a hard time just thinking my thoughts out. Anyway, um, what I'm amazed about it is that Japan, for all intents and purposes, were able to just somehow either what was it? Aside from like one civil war thing, kind of what was it? Not a civil war, or was it some sort of samurai rebellion? That they were able to shoot up on being catching up with all the Europeans with technology, philosophy, math, science. Though morals, I'm not sure of. That it's no matter how much technology you have, it doesn't change. It doesn't change the core of a nation's culture. It may change it or be slightly different, but the still. Anyway, I'm just.
So they decided to go get some. They went to war with China to gain a sphere of influence over Korea, and they took a bunch of China's stuff. But then the West said, hey, cut that out. And since Japan couldn't take on the West, they said, okay, I guess we'll just go home. Wait a minute, what are you doing? Taking advantage of a weakened China and setting up spheres of influence. But I was the one who weakened them. We know. And you guys didn't let me have anything. We know. That seems unfair. We don't think so.
Well, okay, British and France, I get, because of the lands, this was something, I think this was for the Opium War, this was France, shit, damn it, I want to say this is South Korea, I want to say this is, this is Vietnam, but hold on, just gonna look this up, but I don't know about this bit with Germany. Russia here, I get, because Russia, and because of all that, but what's this bit with Germany? I don't know this bit. Okay, let's see, let's just get a map. Please, try an internet, everybody. Ah, shit. Alright, so let's see. Map. Okay. So let's see. It's got all this. It's got some of the islands. That's actually surprising that Japan actually kept South Korea. Or no, not South Korea. The entire of Korea. The Korea all the way Korea here. Sorry, man. For that intents purpose, so I can't see like in the future that at the very least tensions like currently have been tensions have kind of stopped, like it's been slowly being relieved, but there's with all this plague that's happening, and the tensions can always go back again. Let's see. No, actually that's not South Korea. That's damn it, not Vietnam. Shit. What? Why am I thinking of South Korea all of a sudden? Okay, so. Okay, but wait. Wait, if France had this, wouldn't they have this as the goal? Forget. Let's continue.
Okay, see ya. So Japan thought, screw this, and went to war with Russia, and stunned everyone by actually winning. Then they fully annexed.
Wait, was this, the Russo-Japanese War? Oh yeah, it actually... yeah.
Next Korea, but they didn't stop there. In World War I, they took Germany's colonies and islands in Asia.
Yeah, this was during during World War One. This was like sort of like a small favor to the United Kingdom. Japan would take these islands, then Australia would be taking down here. They'd be taking New Guinea. the German colonies of New Guinea and a few of the islands by Germany. And yeah, and Japan also in World War One did like a few little what was it? They did like a few little extra bits at it, stuff that's involving transport and stuff, but nothing of huge significance that I could think of. But if anyone's got details on that, please put it in the comments.
And then in an incident that was maybe staged by the Japanese army, a bomb blew up a Japanese train in Manchuria, giving them an excuse to launch an invasion and take over. So here's the situation. Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, and Japan all believe they're racially superior, all feel hostility towards the Allies, and all want to militarize and take over more stuff. And so...
Wait. So the super allied powers, or the highest powers, is Russia, because Russian Empire is really actually what year is this when they describe it? Like UK, France, and the United States were really big. Were big, though I don't know if it's yet to. I don't think the US was yet to be a superpower, or they had the potential to be a superpower. It wasn't until they had to start militarizing after a certain mission that came in Hawaii. Anyway, but would they? I think they'd be like maybe. What would be like the second place superpowers here that could potentially be a superpower? Actually, now I'm thinking, is it? Damn, I can only think of today who could be a superpower today, but I can't think of any ones during this time. Like, anyway, let's continue.
So they did. Let's start with Germany. Hitler hated the Treaty of Versailles, and now he was ready to begin undoing it. In complete violation of the treaty, the first Luftwaffe squadrons were set up, conscription was introduced, and he pimped up his army. The Allies did nothing. Then Hitler sent his army back into the...
Did they do nothing, or they did not know? That's something I'd like to ask. Was it because they didn't know about the army bit, or that they choose not to? Because that's a big difference in all things.
Demilitarized Rhineland, giving orders to immediately retreat if the Allies showed up. The Allies did nothing.
Wait,
with
what?
his military re-strengthened, he
Jazz up the army, take over the world, question marks, profit.
could now move on to step 2.
Why do I feel like that this is... I got the feeling this is somehow a plan for... So I'm just thinking of like... There's a similar plan like this for everyone living life, and... It's always like step 3, you have no clue on what to do.
He wanted to rapidly increase the Aryan population, and to do so, he needed Lebensraum.
Living space.
Or in other words, he would have to take over the world. But for now, a good portion of Europe would do, and he began eyeing up his neighbors.
Okay, question. Was Hitler's plan just taking over the world? Like, he literally had... His literal plan was taking over the world, because... Heck, people have claimed that. How many nations have claimed that and have yet to take over the world? Heck, who's even taken...
The Allies
I don't know. Jeez. Actually, I'm just thinking, like, if the Nazis were to try and take over, like, the Middle East, like, if the Nazis or had this, like, think of it like a Wolfenstein kind of thing, though less technology stuff and stuff, all the weird technology and stuff, and see if they could put themselves in the same position as today and try and go through all the crap that's going through now. I'm thinking of like a what-if scenario, but...
finally started to get worried, so they implemented a fairly useless diplomatic strategy called appeasement, and it went a little something like this. Hitler would say, "I want that thing," and the Allies would say,
what is that?
"You can't have that thing." "Okay, you can have that thing, but no more. I want that thing." And
Hey, wanna play some video games? I know I do. I haven't seen the sun in years. So...
and repeat.
Back up. That last ad was the same one from before. I think YouTube knows that I'm just recording this. I think it knows. I think YouTube's just fucking with me now.
That thing, okay, you can have that thing, but no more.
Shit, I don't know what that country is. Sorry, I don't know what that country is. Wait, is that Chile?
I want that thing. And repeat. In 1938, Hitler's army marched into Austria and just took it, with no resistance. Boom, this is Germany now. Next, he demanded to be given the Sudetenland, an area of Czechoslovakia with many ethnic Germans. The Allies held a meeting with Hitler in Munich and said, look, we're gonna give you what— Hang on. This meeting is about my territory. Shouldn't I come to the meeting too? Anyway, we're gonna give you what—
Wait, what? Did that actually happen? They just gave him that? Like, was Czechoslovakia part? Were they not in the meeting also? Wait, was even Italy in the meeting? What the... Jeez. Just thinking...
what you want. Really? Yeah. Just like that? Yep. What's the catch? Just sign this piece of paper promising you won't invade the rest of Czechoslovakia.
I will be chill.
Okay. Then Chamberlain returned home victorious, waving his signed piece of paper in the air, declaring crisis to be averted and the continuation of world peace. And we built a statue of Chamberlain in his honor, and every day
come on!
September we celebrate Chamberlain Day. Hitler's invading the rest of Czechoslovakia. What? He's invading the rest of Czechoslovakia. Oh. You lied to me. What do you expect? I'm Hitler. Not to be outdone, Mussolini also wanted to get in on the action. He thought to himself, isn't there a not yet colonized nation somewhere which is so underdeveloped that the people would be defending themselves against our tanks with literal bows and arrows and wooden spears? Oh, there is? Fantastic. And so he took it. Italy also wanted to control the entrance to the Adriatic Sea, so they occupied Albania. Then, in another incident which was maybe staged by the Japanese, gunfire was exchanged by Japanese and Chinese troops at the Marco Polo Bridge, and the Japanese launched yet another invasion against China. They swept through Beijing and Shanghai, and then advanced through the Yangtze Valley to China's then capital, Nanking. It was here that saw the worst of Japan's shocking atrocities committed against the Chinese people. Back in Europe, Germany and Italy made their relationship status official by signing the Pact of Steel. Then, Hitler turned his eyes towards Poland and the hated Polish corridor, splitting Germany in two. At this point, the Allies really had to put their foot down, and they warned him that an invasion of Poland would mean war. Hitler had planned to continue his advance eastward, but he didn't want to end up fighting a war on two fronts. So for now, he made an alliance with Stalin, saying, how about we both invade Poland and split it between the two of us, and I definitely won't not refrain from not betraying you sometime in the future.
Okay, here's something that I found interesting. That, yeah, I knew that, here's the thing, for both, UK and France, the main focus of who was their main bad guy wasn't, Germany. It was, well, depending on who you ask, it might have been, their other rival was of Russia. Communist Russia, of course, and, you know, with the US, it was communism because, you know, the Red Scare and all. And this was kind of like a war between two very controversial leaders that killed a lot of people. And people wondering how, and figuring out how the heck could they have gone through this whole thing. It's the weirdest thing is that when anything could have happened in World War II, but it, for some reason, it kind of just, for some reason, I feel that the results of World War II had, like, maybe not the most impossible outcome, but it was certainly on the other end of unlikely results, though this is just me thinking about during the early stages of before World War II and then when it came to it. Because but also the weirdest thing is that these two kind of knew, or that they would betray each other, but Stalin here just thought that Hitler wouldn't betray him, or like, I don't know. At some point, one of them would have betrayed each other. Just Hitler did it first, because say that, what was it, still didn't have the amount of manpower. No, they had plenty of the manpower. Had the resources. No, enough time to mobilize to start invading Germany. Oh well. You know what? I think I'm saying something wrong here, but I'll just continue.
Sounds good.
All I'm saying is that at the very least, one of these guys would have betrayed the other at one point, but Hitler wanted to do it first.
This new alliance stunned the West. On the 1st of September 1939, German troops entered Poland, and Britain and France declared war on Germany. The Poles fought hard, but they were no match for the two giants crashing down on them from either side. Then came a period known as the Phony War, where everyone just sort of sat around.
Phony War. Yeah.
Not doing much. The French had launched a small invasion into the Saarland, but they maintained mostly defensive positions, and after a while decided to just turn around and call it a day. Speaking of France, the French were still super proud of their victory in World War I, and they hadn't really moved on from it. They still used horses, they dispatched messages by motorbike instead of using radio, orders from the commander-in-chief were usually pretty vague, and the troops were rarely inspected.
Why are we speaking English? Okay, I got a question for this. Was it true that France was super incompetent? Because resources from it, I'd say that I think what's what's your take on France's the whole thing with France in World War II when they were invaded? Because I think it was that they kind of lost because they were took by surprise, like, were really surprised because of the Blitzkrieg by Germany. And, you know, Germany went through the Belgium. They went through Belgium, which the French didn't have they had the marginal line between the border with Germany, but not through Belgium, so...
They built a line of defenses along their German border, but didn't bother extending it all the way to the...
Is it Maginot Line or Maginot Line? Maginot Line? Okay.
Channel, and they wouldn't launch artillery strikes against Germany out of fear of being retaliated against. In a war, they didn't want to attack the enemy. And at first the UK wasn't much better. Chamberlain still naively hoped that the war could be ended diplomatically. Instead of...
where have I heard this before?
Bombing raids, the RAF dropped propaganda leaflets over German cities, which one air marshal said likely did nothing but provide the continent with toilet paper for the duration of the war. They also only sent 200,000 to France, while the French had mobilized millions. Both Britain and France wanted to avoid a repeat of the First World War, and so they wanted to keep the war as far from home as possible.
You know, when you... The act of trying to make sure... You know, trying to convince yourself or trying to prevent a war that's already happening is always gonna lead to the worst case. Trying to ignore that there is a war may be something the biggest sin our government could ever do. Well, aside from insert your comments right here.
So they turned their eyes north, towards Norway. Neutral Sweden was exporting iron ore to Germany through neutral Norway, so the Allies asked them if they could please stop exporting iron ore to Germany, but this request was refused. Then, the Soviet Union attacked Finland, so the Allies said, how about we land troops in Norway?
Alright, my thoughts on the winter... I learned about the Winter War just, like maybe 2 years ago, and this was a war that I had no idea that happened. Like, at least one war that no one else knew that I knew before when all these videos that were popping up was the war between that Russia was in part with Germany to take over Poland. But the Winter War, I didn't know that it was a thing. And what was interesting, it did show that numbers alone cannot take over a country, but with Russia at the time, it was like throw more men, and then if it doesn't work, make sure we have at least a competent officer. But I think that what was it? The problem with the Russians here was what was it? Stalin purged all his competent officers, and all the officers were political officers, or not as competent as they should have been, which then resulted in a shitload of soldiers dying. For just... Anyway, let's continue.
Norway and move them across Sweden to go help out your good pal Finland, and along the way maybe take control of all your amphibians. But Norway and Sweden still said no. So the UK mined the waters around Norway to force any transport ships into international waters, and they also attacked a German tanker they found in the area. Hitler realized what the Allies were up to, and he quickly moved to secure his supply of iron ore. He launched an invasion through Denmark into Norway. The Allies rushed to land troops at key ports along the coast, but Germany had taken control of Norway's airfield, and their air superiority decided the fight. The Allies had to retreat. After this slightly embarrassing failure, Chamberlain resigned and was replaced with Winston Churchill, who had a slightly different approach to dealing with the Germans.
Hi, Hyun here with League of Legends. Now you're gonna be saying wow every time you play this video game. Now look at this, I'm a blind monk. 1 slash, I'm farming some gold. 2 slash,
Hitler's over.
Yep, same ad. It's always the same.
Resigned and was
Same
replaced
ad.
with Winston Churchill, who had
Kind
a
of.
slightly different approach to
Same ad, different style.
dealing with the Germans. Hitler's overall strategy was similar to Germany's First World War strategy. Attack France, defeat France, knocking out the UK in the process, then turn on the Soviet Union and win the war. During the phony war, the Allies had given Hitler time to prepare his forces. Now, he was ready to attack. The Allies had wanted to place troops in Belgium, but Belgium had refused, and in a move that surprised pretty much no one, Hitler launched an invasion to get around France's defenses. The
There
Allies
we
charged
go.
into Belgium at full speed to meet the German invasion head-on, and it looked like a repeat of the First World War was coming. But this time, Hitler had a trick up his sleeve. Blitzkrieg. As the Germans advanced, they sent...
Just note that, if I remember correctly, Hitler did not invent Blitzkrieg. It was, some other German officer, but I can't remember his name, unfortunately, so let's continue.
thousands of refugees westward, slowing down the Allies. Then, to the south, the French had left the Ardennes, an area full of hills and forests, pretty underdefended, because they thought it was naturally impenetrable. Well, the Germans were about to penetrate it with everything they had. They smashed 50 Wehrmacht divisions through, and encircled the Allied armies at lightning speed. The best of the Allied forces were now trapped. The Germans squeezed in from all sides, taking out France's best armies, and nearly wiping out the British too. But they managed to make a desperate last-minute escape at Dunkirk, with British civilian ships even making the perilous journey to bring their young men home. With most of the French forces depleted, the Germans breezed through, taking Paris, and France fell. What the Germans couldn't do in World War I, Hitler had done just like that. Hitler hoped that with the fall of France, the UK would also lose hope and sue for peace. But quite annoyingly, it didn't, and
Never surrender. Sorry.
he needed to secure the Western Front, so he tried to force them into submission.
Sorry, the music just fits so perfectly with the UK. Like God thing, just chanting "Never surrender."
With mind games. The UK were now all alone, and Hitler wanted to emphasize that. First of all, just before France fell, Italy...
Wait. Yes, UK was alone. Alone with all their other colonies. See, Canada, India, Australia just waving. Hi. I'm missing a few other colonies, but what were we? Those, let's see. At this time, I think at least a few of those countries we were in Africa. In Australia was in Africa at the time, but was doing some other shit.
Italy finally declared war on the Allies, making the UK's situation even worse. Next, instead of just occupying all of France, Hitler occupied the coastal areas for defense, but allowed France to continue its existence as a German puppet state. This way, it looked like the UK's old ally had decided to switch sides. Hitler also hoped that the UK wouldn't attack any of her old allies' navy bases or colonies in Africa, giving Hitler an extra line of defense to the south. But the UK made sure to respond to this by sailing down to France's navy base in Algeria and wrecking a bunch of ships.
What? The UK? Sorry, I'm just thinking of like some just the most British voice, just saying like, we don't care if we blow up 100 French ships or something. Like, you would think that maybe you can have, there's still, there's always a small bit of tension between the UK and France, and if they become the enemy, some officers will just not like, for all intents and purposes, UK and France are friends, emphasis, but I don't know actually, what's the relationship between just regular people between France and Britain? What's the relationship between British people and French people? I'm actually curious about that. Is it like is there like a bit of tension between each other, or there's always tension between them if they play in a FIFA game, or soccer game, or football game? I don't. Oh jeez. I can't. I'm fucking.
So have at it.
up.
Hitler then began laying down plans for an invasion of Great Britain. Before German troops could land on British soil, he would first need air and naval superiority across the Channel. Waves of German bombers came, while the completely outnumbered RAF worked bravely around the clock in an attempt to quell the German attacks. At first, the Luftwaffe targeted British ports and coastal facilities. Then it attacked RAF bases, crippling the RAF's ability to defend the nation. And it looked like Hitler's Great British invasion
Jolly
was
rotten.
coming. But then, Churchill ordered a small, pretty insignificant bombing raid over Berlin. It didn't do much damage, but Hitler
Okay. No.
was furious, and he immediately ordered the Luftwaffe to refocus its attacks on civilian targets in London. Children were sent off to the countryside, away from their parents to avoid danger. And
Oh,
frequent
wait a
trips to
minute. Actually, a little funny. Well, maybe a tragic story. A little bit of something I realized. How I learnt about when I learnt about like this stuff with Battle of Britain and all this bombing was from, I remember it was I can't remember if it was a Disney movie or it was the Chronicles of Narnia, the one with the wardrobe, because I wasn't sure what was that whole thing with the bomb shelter and stuff, but I wasn't sure about what involved, like the children were sent to the countryside, and yeah, this was the reason why they were sent, because I didn't know about that context, and you know I wasn't sure why you sent children to the countryside, because was Britain being invaded? Well, technically it was the Germans were trying to invade, but first doing the bombings, and then they needed a friggin' giant navy, which they didn't technically kind of have. Well, they had the Bismarck, but that was more of they kind of implemented it poorly, and
air raid shelters became a daily occurrence, but British morale held firm. Smiling, knitting, lounging casually, these people have balls of steel. This refocusing on London also gave the RAF breathing space to reorganize, so Hitler kind of shot himself in the foot there. Just the foot for now. Finally, the Luftwaffe sent one massive all-out attack on London, and the RAF successfully repelled it, destroying many of the German aircraft and placing air superiority firmly in British hands. Hitler's invasion had to be postponed, but the bombing of British cities continued for some time.
Okay, alright, so that was part one, and yeah, it was good. I had some, okay, I kind of got what was all this happening, but there was a bit of stuff there that I want answers to, like some context on how it all was set up. But still waiting, kind of waiting for when, I don't know, the other nations to join. The United States, or Russia when Germany launches Operation Barbarossa. Australia being in World War II, the Africa campaign, the island hopping of Japan, and all the other bits of war that's and all the bits and pieces of the all sorts of campaigns that are going to happen in part 2. So with that, thanks for watching to the end of the video. Please like and subscribe, brings a smile to my face. And why not check my other videos that aren't reaction videos? Well, you can click on those and watch those, but once you've done watching those, check my other videos that I talk about parts of Australian history. And yeah, that's it. Bye.